What's up, guys? Welcome back to Still Talk with my ex. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Ariel.
Back again. Like, we're super excited. Hopefully, you all had a great Resurrection Sunday, however you celebrate. Hopefully, you enjoyed it. Ariel, how did you celebrate the resurrection, or some people call it Easter holiday?
I celebrated by doing a lot of research of the history of it, the locations, the maps of Jesus's life and his ministry, as well as leading into resurrection. So it was a lot of in-depth research and just really trying to understand the events that took place, and just kind of sitting and meditating on that, and understanding how our Savior, or my Savior, how he did what no one else could have done. And he did so with grace, even though he was unjustly tried.
Yeah.
Or he had an unjust trial.
Yeah. It was definitely, for a lot of believers out there, resurrection. All my friends know, I spend that time really in meditation. I really contemplate his death, his life, his resurrection during that time. And it makes you very humble for what we have, eternal life now. So hopefully you all just enjoyed, in whatever capacity you celebrated this weekend. Hopefully you lived it up and you did a great thing by enjoying life. Well, we are super excited again. We keep bringing you all back this dating content because it's better to do it than people who are dating, right? And
we're out here living it in these streets.
I don't know about in the streets though.
I
don't know about in the streets.
Well,
we're just out here living.
In the proverbial dating streets. How about that? I think so.
But we're excited. This is dating, and we're super excited that we get to finish out. And we're closing out this dating series. We've been driving it hard, y'all. Part 1, part 2, part 3. This will be part 4. Of course, this will be talking about, when to call it quits. And Ariel, such a great topic. I think a lot of people are just like, one of my friends asked me, she's like, I want y'all to talk about this too. And I was like, we were actually getting ready to talk about that. So it's like, what better way to really kind of start the conversation with when to call it quits. And then part 2, guys, we'll jump right into how to uncouple, healthy uncoupling, because sometimes it is kind of hard. We've all been there. When you break up, back again, you think that patterns will change, and they don't. Particularly if no one is willing to do the self-work, or no one is willing to kind of work together. So that's what we'll get into the chat and the discussion. And you all know we always do some questions, and we ask people to write in, and we always do some research so that when we speak to you all, we are not just giving you all hyperbole and just this kind of souped up theoretics, but we're actually taking and thinking about and meditating and really kind of reconciling our own lives and seeing how we can really just kind of let you all know where we are in these topics. So Ariel, we want to jump right into it. Let's talk about it. So when I think about when to call it quits, personally, I think about accepting the reality and not the potential of a situation. I think many people in dating, in life, we tend to look heavily at the potential of the person. And fair enough, right? I think it's fair enough. Everyone has a level of potential. But I think when you are in a relationship and you've been getting to know that other person, and that person has not changed, that person is living their truth, that person is, as Maya Angelou said, showing you who they are, so believe them. And you subsequently do not take a plan of action to correct or to extricate yourself out of that situation, then you become complicit. And sometimes you might be complicit because it's hard. We know we've been in relationships. It's hard to just to leave them because you might actually love the person, or you might actually care. But in effect, what you do is you prolong, that pain, and you draw it out all the more. And so my first thing for me, Ariel, is accept the reality of the situation. Know your personality, know their personality, know the things that you wrote down. We talked about managing expectations. You don't have to lose those expectations in an individual, because sometimes people think that you have to give up those things. Particularly, I'm speaking to your moral compass. I'm talking about your values. I'm talking about the things that you believe in, the fabric of who you are. You know, you don't necessarily have to give up those things. And so when you find yourself, for me, having to forfeit those things, positive things about yourself, in someone else's potential, and you yourself cannot recognize who you are, it's time to call it quits, because what you've done is you've lost your identity in their identity. And so, Ariel, I know I have friends and they stay in these situations, that's what I call them, these situations / relationships for a while. And I'm just like, wow, you are wasting time, you know? And it's a difference, you know, my clarification, it is a huge difference in a person who is, you know, trying hard, to people who are trying to make a concerted effort, you know, to see like, hey, did we do all we can? Did we do the counseling? Did we talk? Did we modularize this out? Versus to people who are just saying, I really don't want to be alone. You know what I mean? So I think that's something really important.
Yeah. I think that you had a lot of great points there. As it pertains to potential, I think one question that we do have to get to a point where when we are in these situations, is ask ourselves, as this current relationship is, as it stands right now, the person who shows up to this relationship that I am dating or that I am involved with, if there has not yet been a conversation of exclusivity. If this person does not change their behavior going forward, and this is the best that I get of them, can I be with them? Am I okay with this? Will I be okay with this going forward? And you usually know the answer immediately, if not sooner. And if your answer is no, and if you are not going to be okay with it, then there needs to be a thought process of, okay, I gotta let this go. And you're not a bad person for doing so. You can also, mourn the fact that you gotta make this decision. You have to make the decision immediately. Not so much, but you do want to be considerate of the other person that is involved with you, so that you are not wasting their time and any more of your time. I think there was another thing I wanted to say.
Yeah, actually, Ariel, I really agree with what you just mentioned about time and really not prolonging, that time and being honest. And I think so many times we get it. I, was dating a young lady and, decided that love wasn't enough. Love was not enough because there were so many differentials in the way that we lived, in our lifestyles, in the things that I placed values on, and the things that she placed value on. So the thing that kind of attracted me to her wasn't ultimately the thing that kept me to her, and I had to be man enough to say, hey, like, this is going to hurt me to break up with her. But I decided that it was more important for me to live my truth than to live her lie, and to live a lie, And I think that's just like one of the things that's the denominator. We sometimes are we can be so generic in certain things, and we can be so sanitized. And yet we learn how to pick and choose the things that we like, well, I'll overlook it. Well, no, you can't overlook that, because that's in the package. That's in that person's fabric. You know what I mean? That's how they comport themselves. Exactly. That's how they comport themselves. And so a lot of the time for me, I wasn't willing to give up how I was raised. I wasn't willing to give up my values. And yet it hurt me to say goodbye. You know what I'm saying? And like Omarion said, it's never a right time to say goodbye. What was that? Chris Brown? Chris Brown. Sorry, Omarion. But sometimes it's never a right time to say goodbye. But if you don't man up or woman up and say goodbye, then you'll keep living the lie. You know what I'm saying? You'll keep living a lie. And ultimately, you'll be the one to suffer. That is particularly if that person is already in their truth. One person suffers, the other person is just living life.
Yeah.
That's how it always works.
I think there is an importance in making sure that that everybody involved is able to live their truth. They are able to stand firmly in what they believe and in their values that they have, because these are their values. But I think that if there comes a time where you feel as if you are muffled, where you feel you need to readjust yourself, where you feel that either they need to change or you need to change, and this whole relationship would be perfect, is a bit delusional. And I would say again, there needs to be a reflection on, can you live with this individual as their truth is right now? And if you cannot, then you need to work on the process, or at least start the process of uncoupling that we're going to talk about later. Just at least to get to the point that you're not wasting time, because essentially if you stay, what can potentially happen is that you will resent this person for not being who you want them to be, which is not fair to them, because they've shown you their truth and they've shown you who they are. And even if it is something where you've had a conversation, but I think to have a conversation to say that, hey, these are my values and I see that yours are not aligned. Is there a way that we can come to a compromise? And if there is not, also understand that, this is also probably a flag where you should start to uncouple. And then to just kind of understand that it is going to be a sad process, but embrace it. Like, don't skip the uncoupling process, because it will essentially come up again if you do not deal with it, as it comes.
Absolutely agree with that, Ariel. Absolutely agree with that. And the other thing I was thinking about when you were talking is just like, we talk about patterns all the time, particularly if you all out there listen to Ariel and myself, we talk about patterns and cycles. And a lot of the time, you're living in your skin. So your triggers, the catalog of your life. You've been there. You know what I mean? You've been there, you're in it. And so when you start seeing that you yourself have gotten right back into that paradigm of living vicariously through someone else or trying to make someone else happy, when you see yourself kind of defaulting back to this fragment of who you are as an individual, and you don't necessarily, you're not authentically being you, because at the brunt of this, we keep talking about truth and living your truth, you know what I mean? And being comfortable with knowing this person isn't for me, but that doesn't take away the other opportunities that I have. And sometimes, Ariel, I think people feel so perplexed because they're like, well, it took so long for me to just get here, or no one's going to be able to know me this way, or no one's going to be able to. But that in itself is a pattern. We get right back into doing this tango. We ask ourselves these questions, and we idle down right back into that same cycle. And if you are somebody who is willing to change narratives, willing to change the page, then you got to be willing to consolidate your life, every precept, every catalog, go back through your life. No, hey, that's a pattern. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you got into it, but you don't have to stay in it, And so for me, it's like, it's heavily relied on you being wise enough and vigilant enough to say, you know what, I choose not to go back down that road again. And what I'm feeling, it is temporary. This pain, these tears, the discomfort of feeling like I'm gonna be alone, it is temporary and it is necessary for me, by myself, not outside of just getting to know anybody else, but it is necessary for my growth. And when you accept that, then you have just graduated to your next class. Welcome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think too, in the process of getting to that next class and that next state, is really kind of trying to figure out and how to find your voice in the breakup, right? How to actually approach your partner to let them know, like, hey, I've been feeling some type of way for a little bit, and I think we need to have a discussion and this and the third. And I think that the best type of way to deliver it is to be face to face if you can. to be face to face, to deliver the information, and also just kind of let them know, like, I know there's always this cliche in rom-com movies of it's not you, it's not me, it's you, it's not you, it's me. I hope that we can still be friends. And there is a process to that, but I think also that there's something to be said about really just being respectful and letting this individual know, again, your truth, standing in your truth. I find that these are the values that I have, these are the values that you have, and it seems as if we can't come to a compromise, which is okay. It is okay that we cannot.
Ariel, is there a gauge on timeline for you? Because I know for me, I cut people off so quickly, and I know a lot of the times people was like, well, how long should I stay before I leave? Do you have any advice there for people?
In terms of the timeline of when you actually start to have the conversation of breaking up?
Or when you should extricate, and when you should really kind of extricate yourself?
I don't think that there is, and I think that it depends on the time that you've been with that person. I think it's a lot easier to have that conversation with someone who only been dating for a little bit. But if you have been with someone for a genuine amount of time and y'all have shared a lot of spaces, a lot of experiences, it does take time to actually build up the voice to actually say, like, hey, even though we've shared this time, even though we've done these things, even though, people have already assumed that we are going to get married or that our next step would be to get married, I'm really not feeling as if I want to continue this relationship with you. I think it would be better served for both of us if we part ways. So I would say it depends on how long you've been with someone. I don't think that there is a set timeline or specific, like, okay, well, once you realize that you don't like them no more, you give yourself 5 days, a week to grieve, and then you leave. You know,
I can definitely hear that point. I think for me, I'm very, I think the older we get, the more wise we become, and the more
well, hopefully,
well, I know, at least I can speak for myself, and I think that we become more wise and we become a bit more preservative of our time, And so for me, because and this is why I recommend this, get to know somebody as friends for a long time. And I know our generation is we're fluid. I get it. Do you? No judgment. Do you? But this is why you want to get to know somebody. I can tell you, getting to know women before I'm actually calling them my girl or saying we're exclusive has paid off, because I have dodged some machetes. You know what I'm saying? I have really dodged some AK-47s. You know what I'm saying? Because once you know yourself, you know the person, because here it is again, this algorithm. Every day is not going to be the same in a relationship, right? But every day it should not be this mercurial kind of up and down situation. It should have a baseline to your relationship, right? So when the relationship starts to just really go to the left and the water it starts getting rough, I think you should start to think about okay, what is the recurring argument about? Are we both truthful? While we were friends, did this come up? And can I accept it? It is all about what you can accept. I promise you, once you start living in your reality, you'll be unstoppable, because reality is going to keep you out of harm's way. It's going to be one of the things that preserves you for your future. You know what I mean? It's good to look at a person's potential, but potential I see potential through the narcissist of someone who thinks that they can change the individual. Yeah, you can influence someone, but you can't change that person unless they want to change. You know what I mean? That's God. You know what I'm saying? He has the power to do that. And that person has to be good. You know what I mean? So make sure.
Can I park there for a moment?
Yeah.
Nor is it your job to feel as if you should change this individual. If you feel as though, oh, we would be great together if only he would just, or oh, we would be great together if only she would just. That is also a red flag to say that you do not accept this individual in their truth as they are in the package that they were given to you in. And if you cannot accept that individual as they are, as they have expressed themselves to be, then that is also another sign that you need to just kind of step to the side. Because again, it is not your job to change someone. That is not your duty to, nor is it your duty to sit by and wait for them to change. That is not your duty.
Yeah.
Just wanted to put that out there.
Absolutely. And take that burden off yourself. You know, you're not married to that person, and that person has to evolve on their own. And I think when you decide that you are going to be responsible for yourself and take care of yourself, then you have just arrived at the gate to say, you know what? And I actually, you know, if you come to that Selah moment that day and you're like, you know what? I had an epiphany. I want to talk to you. And I want to have a transparent conversation with you. I don't think it's working. You know what I'm saying? And so it's based on where you are. It's based on, you know, how your comfort level, you know what I mean? I guess I'm just in the phase right now where I'm not waiting. I just don't want to waste no time. Not because I'm anxious to be in a relationship, but I am targeted about living my truth. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I hear so many women say this sometimes. They're like, man, I did all of this work only for the next person to just, you know, only for the next woman to reap the benefits. And
listen, hold on. I gotta share the things.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Because that essentially was my truth as I was dating you. Right? Like, it was essentially like this whole process where I feel like I've been living a lie. I have not been being truthful. I have not been standing in my truth about the things that I want and what I don't want, what I like, what I don't like. And I'm frustrated and I resent you because I feel like I'm not able to be me. And I think towards the ending of us having, you know, like our breakup discussions and things like that, I'm like, you don't know me. Like, you do not know me. You don't see me. Like, I just had like a lot of things that I would just kind of word vomit. But at the same time, I felt the pressure of, I've been with you for so long. We've been together so many years. The natural trajectory from here is for us to get married. And we were having conversations about being married, having kids, you know, X, Y, and Z. Like, we were like, okay, this could potentially be it.
Planning the wedding. Planning the wedding.
Right. But I think too that there was just a lot in terms of, I felt like I lost an identity of myself in the relationship. And so, but what I would tell myself is exactly what you said. I've put too much time into this relationship to have another woman come behind me and reap the benefits of this individual who this man has evolved into.
Yeah.
I was like, she's not gonna reap the benefits of my hard work.
Yeah.
And
but
can I finish?
Yeah.
But I think that we do ourselves a disservice, a genuine disservice, when we try to tell ourselves that, when we try to coax ourselves into staying, because we are not happy and we're not in a space of, and not to say that every day is, like you said, not to say that every day is going to be the same, not to say that every day is going to be unicorns and rainbows, but there needs to be a genuineness of a reality that you can share your truth with the individual who you are in relationship with. You should be able to feel as if you are in a safe space for that individual, with that individual, and that you can be a safe space for your partner. And so if there is any rickety and, you know, rockiness in that area, again, the questions that you pose about, can I stand this? Can I really stay in this with this individual as they are phenomenal question, but I do think that we do ourselves genuine disservice when we try to say, well, I'm going to stick it out and I'm going to stay because I put in all this time. And I think that stems from just like this fear of failure in a relationship. But the reality of the situation is, if you go ahead and just make the acknowledgement and feel your feelings, it is okay. And there can be a sadness of letting go of that idea of that relationship with that individual. But in the long run, you would do yourself so much more good than you would do to stay and not be authentically you. Yeah.
And I think what I would tell women, because I hear that a lot from women, I'm sure there's some men out there who might say that as well too. My advice would be, don't see it as I put all of this work into this man. Because what you do, you assign validity through him only being with you, that he's, now I get that there are things in terms of just like, I always say a woman can make a man better. She can help him and they can do that for each other. But I think when you quantify your output or input in the relationship and the execution, if it works or not, that's where you do yourself the major disjustice, because it's not necessarily I put the work in and it didn't work. No, it's I lived my truth and it didn't work. I was my authentic self in the relationship, and and he wasn't for me, he was for that young man. You know what I mean? It's about reassigning. Women have to, or my advice would be for women to reassign the way that they wear the breakup. You know what I mean? Instead of wearing, I did all of this for him, and he just going on and it didn't work out, and someone else. No, it's I lived my truth with him, and not saying that I wasn't good enough, we weren't compatible. Right. So what you do is you change the trajectory of saying, you know what, I was my authentic self with him, he's a good guy, it didn't work out. And I think that kind of helps to recalibrate the way that we feel, because breakups are hard anyways.
They are.
Without women wearing the guilt of, I should have did this differently, or the man saying, man, if I could have did this differently, or I should have did this differently. Just wear and blanket yourself up in your truth.
Yeah, and I think taking that perspective that you just talked about kind of relieves this edge of bitterness and rehearsing that goes on in the breakup for any individual to say that I gave this man or I gave this woman this many amount of years of my life, and then they go and they give all of what I put up with and what I went through to this individual. If it is the space of, just like you said, no, I gave my authentic self and we just were not compatible. Well, I'm thankful that we had this time. I'm thankful. And it doesn't feel like that at first. You got to get through it.
Yeah.
But it is okay, or you can have a breather moment where you're like, you know what? I'm thankful that I had this moment because this moment taught me this. And I'll be able to take that into my next experience and be able to live myself up, live with, standing in my truth, being authentic, and showing my authentic self to this other individual to see if there is compatibility there. Yeah. And it also kind of releases your ex from this whole, they low down, they dirty, and they wasted my time, and this, that, and the third. It just kind of, reduces that whole blame game and takes and gives you the power and the responsibility of, okay, well, I can move forward in my power of knowing that, okay, now I know what I want and I can identify myself and work on that in the process of uncoupling as well.
Yes, which kind of goes right into the next topic in terms of when it is that time and you've been together. And this can be for people who have been together a long time, or you've been together and you might have spent a lot of time together, and it's natural. We don't want to make y'all think that we just, particularly me, that I'm a robot, because I can just, and this, I've just am built like that. I cut people off and it's like, all right, it was nice meeting you. You know what I mean? Because it does take time, and there is, and one of my guy friends, he's married, and he was telling me about soul ties, Ariel, and he was like, you know, because you are like this in whatever capacity that is for you, when you tear, a part of you kind of rips, and that takes healing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People don't tell you that after a breakup, God
Absolutely.
wants to heal you, you know, or you need to go through healing. And I think the uncoupling is a great thing, because what it does is it teaches you not to fill the space for singleness and healing with, I'm on the website and I just want somebody to make me feel good.
Yeah. And I think from an article that I was reading about like how to uncouple into like, you know, when a relationship ends, one thing that I read was basically that like the uncoupling process, like you said, helps you to heal faster, because you take notice of yourself and who you are in this space, as opposed to, like you said, trying to jump into something else, or, you know, that age-old statement of like, you know, the best way to get over one woman or the best way to get over one man is to get a new one. And it's like, but you don't give yourself that space to heal, and you basically just kind of carry baggage of bitterness. And so again, not living in your truth of, okay, well, who am I compatible with? And again, managing your expectations to go into another relationship when the time is right and when you have healed. But I think some things that, you know, I just kind of read from the article that I was like, this is really good, was just how, you know, the fact that usually in the process of uncoupling, one person has maybe started the process earlier than the other person. So it's okay to understand that you both are not on the same page as it pertains to uncoupling, because one person may have had the revelation that it's not working out sooner than the other. And then to understand that it's okay that the both of you are working through this in different stages and different times, because your process of uncoupling is your process as it is and nobody else's. And also understanding that just because the topic of uncoupling does not necessarily mean that it is the exact breakup, but it is to start the process of and transitioning out of, you know, a connection that is physical, emotional, psychological, and, you know, just and socially. Like you guys may not be going out together anymore, you know, or as often as you were, or it's something where, you know, the emotions that you guys once felt about being giddy or even sharing thoughts of emotions is no longer as prominent as it was, or what have you. So it's just like to start the process of it. And then one thing that I was just like, this article really just kind of made my heart smile was, a lot of times in relationships, we define ourselves by these relationships that we're in. And an important part of uncoupling is re-identifying and redefining yourself away from that relationship. So getting to know you and reestablishing who you are as an individual who is single, or as an individual who is preparing to be single. Like that is something else. And I thought that was just really profound to like, okay, you know, like get to know you, identify you before you get back out here. And I think that's one thing that we've been talking about in the dating stages and things like that. Sometimes it's okay to take a break and just not continue to date and pile things on, especially if you have not had time to heal. But even with that, another thing is, you know, in the article, it was basically saying that it's okay to continue conversation with your ex, because, you know, this individual had a significant, you know, space.
If it's a healthy situation.
And that's what I was about to say, there's a caveat. if it's a healthy situation, it is okay for you all to continue to have conversations, but understanding that, you know, you all are in the process of uncoupling and unraveling and, you know, moving away. But there was also the part of the conversation that talks about when someone in the uncoupling process of the exes starts to date and introduce and recouple. And how there is usually a sadness that goes with that too. Because now there's the reality, like this is over for real. Like it is over, said and done, put a bow on it, move on.
Yeah.
Because now there is no hope, any secret wishes or hopes that there were of getting back together have been squashed.
Yeah.
And which I got opinions about that, but I hold them. But essentially, I just thought that this article was just really, it was really good. And I think they kind of pulled the points from this book called Uncoupling, and turning points in like intimate relationships. So I thought that the points that I read were just like really, really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I think those are some amazing points, because more often someone has already started to check out. It's kind of like, it reminds me of a job, you know, any job. And as soon as I put in that 2 weeks notice, and it's like I got the offer letter from the previous job, it's like, all right, I'm out of here. And so I started cleaning up my desk. I started, you know, kind of appreciating the moments. I started doing less work, you know what I mean? I started kind of coming out of the rhythm, preparing myself to be used to a new algorithm. And you can take that train of thought and use it for a relationship. And a lot of the times when you are someone who has gone from spending a lot of the time with the person that you're dating or you're in a relationship, and I know it's hard, it's specifically when, you know, you guys thought that you would spend the rest of your life together. That is a process, you know what I mean? And so the shock of that, it can be traumatic, you know, and that's why we're really championing and telling you all that take the necessary time to heal.
Right.
Because a lot of the times when you don't heal, you know, it's almost like a scab, you know, you keep picking it, but it needs to heal on its own. It has its own barometer for when it's going to heal. And so when you keep kind of doing everything, you know, putting a Band-Aid but not treating the sore, you know what I mean, doing all of those things, you have to go through healing. And it's the same thing with a wounded heart, you know, when your heart is wounded and then you get into a new situation to try to numb that pain, it might give you some reprieve for a minute, but it doesn't necessarily take away the pain that you need to mourn and memorialize someone that you loved who shared a space in your life that no longer will occupy. And sitting in that, I think is extremely, extremely important. And so start that process, you know, but only you know when you can start that uncoupling process. Have those conversations so that the other person is, you know, alerted, you know what I mean? No one wants to wake up and then we're just like, all right, I'm moving out today. Kind of let the person know, you know, give them some time to say, you know what, hey, this is what I'm feeling. I'm not certain, but I think I'm ready to call it quits. How do you feel? And maybe if the other person is, you know, on the same path as you are, they might be like, they may even be feeling the same thing, you don't know. But I think having courageous conversation is essential when you talk about the uncoupling process, because what you're talking about, again, going from someone that you share life, you might have had a sexual relationship, so you're talking about just, you know, being able to peel that back and you get used to it. And also, it might be your best friend. I remember when I was dating a young lady and I was listening to, I don't know why I do this, but when I go through breakups, Ariel, I always listen to like sad music. And I'll never forget Luther Vandross and Jagged Edge. Those are all like my breakup songs. And I'll never forget listening to Trey songs. I wish I never did it. You know what I mean? Now you can, whatever your did it is, might not be mine, but whatever your did it is, it's basically saying that you established a connection with a girl or woman who was just your best friend, you know, might have been your lover, you know, might have been, you know, just someone that you spent a lot of time with, and the agony of knowing that you yourself have to walk away from that. You know what I mean? what does that look like? If you're somebody who has never gone through a breakup and it might be your first time and you like, this is traumatic, you have to give yourself the resonance to say, you know what, I need to talk to someone and I need a village, right?
Right. And I think that there is nothing wrong with, like you said, having a village and expressing to individuals, but you got to be wise about who's in this village, right? You have to be wise about who is going to just kind of like have your back in the process of uncoupling, in the process of talking about a breakup or what have you. Because I can remember a breakup that I had, and I called my friends and I told them, I was like, hey, I want to go eat crawfish and drink wine and try this new spot that's in the city, and we can talk and things of that nature. And I think we sat there for hours just outside on the patio roasting marshmallows and eating crawfish and drinking drinks, just having good conversation. But basically it took one of my friends, who I don't even know if because she just kind of, she's not one that minces words. But it took her to actually tell me, she was like, I've known you for a while. She was like, you have this habit that once you have decided that you are done with this man, or you have broken up, that
All right, we back.
Okay. So basically what my friend told me was that she noticed that I didn't necessarily take the time to really just kind of heal and uncouple from what just took place before I was back on the dating scene. And so she was like, you may want to take some time. Like, no, for real, girl, take some time. And I think it took that, as well as this individual who I broke up with. I was a little shocked, and I was a little hurt by it. And not only did I get like my female friends' opinions, and not just because, you know, you have those ones who are just like, from this day forth, he is dead to me. Like, you let me know and I'm ready to go ride over here. We can slash his tires. Like, you know, you have your riders. But then you also have to have the ones in the group that just make sense. And they're like, no, don't go over there. That's a crime. That's a crime. Don't do that. But then, but I also talked to like my male friends as well. And one of my male friends was like, sometimes it isn't even you. Sometimes a man just really does not know how to handle all of this that he has in his space at one time. And he was like, and it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with him. And if he has given you his truth and he told you that this is what this is, take him at face value and understand that this is it. Don't try to mince words. Don't try to, you know, make it into something else. Take it as it is and just be relieved. And if you want to pick it up later, if you guys are still single, that is an option. But if not, move on. But also take some time to heal.
That's right. Definitely take some time to heal and get yourself where you need to be at, because that's definitely super important. And we just, you know, we realize, y'all know that anything that we tell y'all, we have lived it or have gone through it or know someone that experienced, but most of the stuff we talk to you all about is as lived, you know. So we know that there is benefits to taking that time. Yes. You know, you'd be surprised how much you learn about yourself in the uncoupling phase, you know. Yes. And how many habits you can unlearn, you know. And so take that time. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. We get that, you know, we are creatures of habit. It is burnt into our neurology. So when you spend time with somebody, you mourn their absence. Same, no different. You know what I mean? But what's super important is you holding on to the substance of who you are and not losing yourself in that. And sometimes, like Ariel said, when you kind of do this, serial dating thing after you break up with someone, what happens is that you spread yourself. You spread yourself, and you go lacking. You know what I mean? And when you don't heal, you go lacking. And then you dump all that pain, all of that hurt, all of those wounds. You dump that on this individual who didn't sign up. That brother, that sister, she didn't sign up to be in a dysfunctional relationship. And so be cognizant that just because you think that you're ready to get over it doesn't mean that you are. Do the self-work. Make sure that you have gone through one. I realized something about myself in this dating, in the dating space, that I do get over things quickly, but there were times.
But I feel like that's because you are usually the initiator in the uncoupling stage.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Absolutely. And I've also, realized that I do bleed as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you go through life, and sometimes, like I said, maybe you are the initiator, maybe you're the one who just kind of chop things off, and you finally bleed a little bit, you realize so many different things about yourself. And had I had not taken that opportunity to really learn myself and to heal and to really figure out where I was even complacent, where I was even, a collaborator, in certain things, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. So don't be afraid to embrace that time. I know it's hard, but certainly, we don't want y'all staying in nothing toxic. We're never going to encourage you to stay in nothing toxic. We want you to progress. And I think that's what's important.
Absolutely. And I think it is important to say that, just as Brandon mentioned, like these are situations and these hypotheticals that we bring up. A lot of these are dealing with healthy individuals who have either done self-work or looking to do self-work. And these are situations that are normalized and healthy situations, not necessarily something that is toxic or where an individual or two or both or whatever are being manipulated, or you're dealing with narcissism. That is something totally, completely different. And you may want to kind of consult a licensed LMFT for that information. So don't come here looking for validation for, a terrible relationship that you're thinking that you should stay in or what have you. But we're just advocating for, healthy situations over here.
Yes, and y'all know we want y'all to succeed. That's why we do these podcasts. We want to give y'all all of the intel that we can. So enjoy, that relationship, but don't be afraid to say it doesn't feel right and say that's my reality and I'm sorry, but it's not gonna work, right?
Right.
But y'all know, as always, we got to get out of here. We love y'all. We'll be right back again with another session. We are closing out on this particular series. So if you want to go back to part 1, you can find that on YouTube as well too, because definitely we have been just really killing the pavement with just gems and information that we feel would be extremely important as it relates to your progress. All right. We'll see y'all next time. We love y'all, and we are out.
Bye.